Longlegs, starring Maika Monroe and Nicolas Cage, is about a FBI agent played by Maika Monroe who spends the movie searching for a sort of a serial killer played by Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage's character, uh, he infiltrates families somehow, and without entering the house of the families, and gets the father to kill the entire of his family, his wife, his kids, and this happens over a number of years, like 20 years, 30 years. He gets to know it's a family. He goes to the house, doesn't go inside the house, but somehow convinces the father to kill his own family, and that's basically the story of the movie. And then it's Maker Monroe's job as an FBI agent to find Nicolas Cage's character throughout the movie. We're not introduced to Nicolas Cage's character until about the 45-minute mark of the movie, so he features predominantly in the second half of the movie. So the first half of the movie is we're just following FBI agent Maker's story. She is at the start of the movie. She's tasked with finding a man who's been killing people, and she's partnered with somebody, and then they go out onto the field and knock on some doors to try and find this bad guy. And she has kind of like a psychic ability, so she can see things, and she can see where the bad guys live and where they're doing the bad things. So she finds when she's partnering with somebody, she finds the house where the bad guy lives, and her partner knocks on the door, and he gets shot in the head, and eventually she goes inside the house and captures the bad guy. And because of this scene, later in the film, she gets promoted to be an FBI agent on a different more high profile case, and she gets put on the case of the Longlegs case. Nicolas Cage plays the character called Longlegs, who I previously told before. He goes and finds families and gets the father to kill his entire family. And Maika Monroe's job is to try and find who is doing this and who is this Longlegs character, because after the father kills his family, Longlegs leaves a note inside the house, and that's how we know that Longlegs is responsible for the killings of these families. Somehow he's responsible. And in the first half of the movie, we get a bunch of scenes of Maika trying to figure out who this guy is, and a few scenes of her with other police officers. And there's actually an early scene in the movie where she goes, she's working with a police officer who's older than her, and she gets invited to his house, and we get to meet his family. And this scene is very out of place compared to the rest of the movie. It's like, why are we being introduced to this family? It's a very strange scene, and a very out of place scene. And for me, that scene felt like, okay, I think this is significant later in the movie, and I was right. We do get to revisit this family later in the film, which I'll tell you about a little bit later. But there's one scene in the first half of the film where she goes back home to her kind of like a cabin wooden house. It's a very creepy house, kind of in the middle of nowhere. And there's big knock on the door, bang, 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 bang. And then she goes outside with her gun to investigate, and she sees a figure in the woods, and she goes to investigate. And then as she walks a few meters away from her house, we see that this figure has actually entered into her house. We assume it's the Longlegs character, and then she sees that he's gone back into her house, and she goes back to her house. And then once she's back in the house, Longlegs has left a letter on her desk, and please do not open this letter until later, until your birthday. Longlegs is somehow convincing the father of these families to murder his families on the birthday of the daughter, and he's convinced many families, I don't know how many, 6, 10, 20 families to kill the entire families on the daughter's birthday. And this early scene in the cabin, in Maker's cabin, in the first half of the film, we begin to find out that actually she's not just an ordinary FBI agent. She's connected to Longlegs somehow, and she's connected to the story. She's not just investigating Longlegs. She's actually connected to the film somehow, which we don't find out till later in the film. In the second half of the film, we're introduced to Longlegs a bit more. There is a scene. The first scene of the movie is Manka Munro's FBI agent as she's a little girl. She's 9 years old, and she's living with her mother, very secluded house in the snow. And she goes outside and she sees a car in the background. You kind of see a man sitting in the car. You don't really see who it is. And then the very creepy music, creepy setting, and then that's the first scene of the movie. It kind of sets up a very creepy tone to the movie. And then after that scene, we are introduced to Manka, the FBI agent, maybe like 15, 20 years later, as she's an FBI agent investigating Nicolas Cage's Longlegs character. In the second half of the film, we're introduced to Longlegs. He's very strange. He's shopping. He's in his creepy house making dolls, and in the second half of the film, eventually we find out that Maker's mother is connected to the story somehow, and we eventually go back to her childhood home, and we meet her mother. Her mother's very creepy and very not all there, and then Maker, eventually she goes up into her bedroom. She finds a photo that she took of Longlegs when she was 9 years old on her 9th birthday, and then we finally have a picture of who this guy is, of who Nicolas Cage is, of who Longlegs is. And then she goes back to where she works, and she shows his photo to her boss, and then they track down Longlegs, and they capture him, and they take him back to the police station. And then there's a scene of him and Mega in a room, and she's kind of interviewing him, and he ends up banging his head on the table to kill himself, even though she says, oh, there's someone working with you, you can't be doing this all alone. And so his secret doesn't get out. He kills himself, so she can't find out the truth. Bang, 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 bang. And then after Nicolas Cage kills himself, she goes back to her childhood home again to see her mother, to question her again about her childhood. And it's when we go back home that she goes back home with a partner from the police. And when she goes back home, she enters her childhood home, and when she enters the home, you see her mother exit the house with a gun, and she shoots the other police officer dead in the car. And it's here you realize, okay, her mother is not all there. She may be connected to this story somehow. And then Maker ends up like passing out. And then when she wakes up, her mother is gone, but she's realized actually that her mother is probably the one who's been helping Longlegs with the killings. And then she gets a phone call that maybe her colleague, that the family we met at the start of the film, her police officer family, may be in danger. So she quickly gets in the car and goes back to this family's house, and it's here we find out that the cop father is probably going to kill his wife and daughter. And there's and a kind of like a flashback where Maker is lying on the bed with her mother, and her mother kind of fills in the gaps in the story, because the story in the movie is a little bit confusing. It doesn't like all connect. There's a lot of flashbacks and jumping in between time, and so this scene of her mother on the bed with Maker when she's a young girl, she's describing how she came to help Longlegs with the killings. Longlegs makes dolls, and these dolls are possessed by the devil, and her Maker's mother pretends to be a nun, and she gives these dolls, possessed dolls that are made by Longlegs, and pretends that these dolls are a birthday gift from the church to these families, and these families take these dolls in that are possessed by the devil, and then these dolls that are possessed by the devil, they somehow convince the father to kill his entire family, and that's how the Longlegs Nicolas Cage character kills his families. He uses Maker's mother and the dolls that are possessed to kill these families, and that's basically the story. The end of the movie is the family at the end of the movie. The wife ends up getting killed in the kitchen by the police father. The father ends up getting shot by Maker, the FBI agent, but she ends up rescuing the girl. And then she says to the girl, "We need to escape. We need to get out of here." And that's basically the end of the movie. This film, Longlegs, is it's kind of a cross between like a Silence of the Lambs and like a demon horror movie. It's very well made. It's very well acted. It's very creepy. It's very intriguing. The mystery of the story does keep you intrigued the whole way. But for me personally, the story is so hard to believe, so crazy, so many holes in the story that I couldn't fully embrace the film, but I still very much recommend checking out this film because there's a lot to recommend. It's creepy, it's just very unique, but the Nicolas Cage character, he's so strange, and he's obviously psychologically like crazy. He shouldn't be living in public. He should be in a hospital, and he's so strange in the film that I couldn't believe that he can live like in the real life and nobody raises an alarm, and it's just very much a coincidence that the little girl at the start of the movie ends up being an FBI agent, and ends up being connected to the story. Ends up being connected to the story. It's just very far fetched, but you just kind of have to accept how ludicrous the story is. Some people are going to accept it more than others, and if you can kind of accept that it's a horror movie and not really a true crime story, then you'll be able to accept it a little bit more. But for me, it kind of took me out of the film a little bit, but I still definitely recommend checking out Longlegs. I give Longlegs 3.5 stars out of 5.